everyone. Thanks for joining us on Texas Insider. I'm Jim Cardle. We're excited today to be in the middle of a Senate and House budget battle and to have a member of the Senate Finance Committee, Dan Patrick.
Good to be back.
From Katy, Texas. Thanks for coming back. You are a member of the Senate Finance Committee, Education,
Criminal Justice, Health and Human
Services,
and about 8 others. So we're
a busy man, obviously, and we want to respect your time. But just earlier today, Senator, kind of coming to a head was the debate on the budget. Senator Ogden even saying in the Senate that it looks like there may be a special session. Give us an update of where the budget stands today.
You know, the difference between the two budgets, Jim, is that the Senate spends about $3 billion more for classrooms and teachers than the House. And that looks to be the point of which the House and the Senate cannot agree. Now, I want to put something into perspective.
Okay.
The Senate budget cuts $4 billion from education.
Okay.
The House budget cuts over $7 billion. Our total budget in the Senate cut spending by over $11 billion.
So you're being austere, you're trying to accomplish what your constituents sent you here for,
Absolutely.
and that's make tough decisions.
Make tough decisions, live within our means, no new taxes, no new broad-based fees. But in the Senate, we believe there's a level of funding that the classrooms and the teachers need. We want the school districts to cut from the administrative side, but we want to be sure that we can fund the classrooms and the teachers while living within our means. The average school district under the Senate budget would lose between 4 and 8%. In the House budget, they lose anywhere from 14 to 25%. We in the Senate believe that we need to fund our classrooms and our teachers at a reasonable reduction, and I believe that school districts can live with a 5 to 8% cut. I think I speak for many other senators who believe that a 20 to 25% cut would be difficult for teachers in classrooms. As Republicans, as conservatives, we're demonstrating that we can live within our means, we can balance the budget without raising taxes, and we can dramatically cut spending. Again, the Senate budget is $11 billion plus in cuts. But we have to do two things.
Okay.
We have to fund public safety, which we're doing. In fact, we're adding money to border security. And we have to fund our classrooms and teachers and demand that the school districts live within their means.
Speaking of the school districts,
Yes.
let me ask you about that, because there's been demonstrations out in front of the Capitol. You are still on the radio some.
Yes.
You're in touch with your constituents,
Yes. KSEV in Houston,
SEV
and we're
in
on San
Houston.
Antonio and Dallas, and chairman of the Tea Party caucus. So we're listening all the time to our
That's right. I
constituents.
failed to mention the Tea Party. So are you hearing, or what do your superintendents and your administrators versus your teachers about these cuts?
Well, here's who I'm listening to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to everyone in terms of Tea Party and conservatives who want us to cut. We're doing that.
Okay.
I'm listening to teachers. I'm listening to PTAs, to school boards. I'm listening to superintendents. And at the end of the day, you have to make the vote that you believe is the best for Texas, the future of Texas, and for our parents and our school children. And I believe that vote is what the Senate has done. We have cut education $4 billion. If it were up to the teachers' unions and superintendents, they would not only have us not cut, they would have us spend more that we don't have.
After we've doubled spending in education in the last 10 years.
Yes, and when I listen to our conservatives and our Tea Party friends, and you know, I'll probably have the top conservative voting record in the Senate again, or right there at 1 or 2 with my conservative track record. My Tea Party members and conservative Republicans in our district and across the state understand that they have kids in school too. And so they want us to cut, and they want us to cut from the administration side. Now, we can't control that, but the administration are cutting back their budgets, and they're cutting the non-teacher portion of education. So our focus in the Senate is not money on education, it's money in the classroom and money to teachers. And again, $11 billion in cuts in the Senate, but we're prioritizing the classroom and teachers.
And speaking of the classroom, there's a bill in the House, HB 400 by Representative Eisler.
Right. Don't give him a promotion yet.
Have something similar in the Senate.
Yes.
And it has to do with class size and mandates.
Yeah.
What is the status on that?
Well, HB 400 has been hung up all session, and our version of that is Senate Bill 12, of which I'm a co-author on. And one of the things that a lot of folks don't understand, Jim, and this is what frustrates me about basically the teacher associations killing these two bills, because the Democrats are killing these two bills. And here's the issue. School districts are not allowed to cut teachers' pay by $1. Not $1. School districts cannot cut teachers' pay below 2011 levels at all. This was an amendment that I voted against and others voted against, but the Democrats got through last session.
Last session, not 2011, 2009.
They got through in 2009. So you take a school district, any school district, if they could cut teacher salaries by 1%, they could probably save all the teachers, or 90% of them. But I'll give you an example.
And does it apply just to teachers or teachers and administrators?
Teachers.
Just teachers.
The teachers. So we had testimony from a school district that said, for example, if we have $5 billion in cuts, they have enough teachers. If they cut 1%, that would cover $5 million. If they can't cut teacher salaries by 1%, they're going to have to lay off 100 teachers. So the teacher unions are going to be the ones responsible for teachers being fired, because we are going to cut spending in education in the Senate or the House or whatever the compromise ends up being. It looks like this summer in a special. But school districts need the flexibility, like any business does, to adjust payroll within reason. And the other thing that both of these bills would provide is to allow furloughs. Each school district has 4 to 7 days of non-teaching days where teachers are in the schools. And if they could furlough 1 or 2 days, non-paid, non-classroom days, that would save the district millions. And this amounts up to a lot of money across the state, where we have 300,000 teachers.
So we're looking at teachers taking the brunt of this austerity, but the administration, which I think a lot of Texans, I'm hearing you saying.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying the teachers are taking the brunt. The fact is, from all the evidence I've seen, school districts are cutting administration as much as they can. And when I say administration, that includes bus drivers, maintenance, the cafeteria workers, all those other jobs.
Okay.
When people say there are 600,000 employees in our school districts, half are teachers, some people think that means they're all at superintendents. No, most of those jobs, those other jobs, are what I would call middle management people, like the director of music, the director of the math department. Those jobs need to go. But most of those jobs are bus drivers, cafeteria. About 30% of the jobs, the average pay is $18,000. So the teachers, however, if the House budget passes, that cuts an extra $3 billion out.
Okay.
And if school districts aren't given flexibility to reduce salaries at some level or furlough a few days, then there are going to be more teachers who will lose their jobs unnecessarily.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Let's jump to another education subject, and that is charter schools. Some people believe they do deliver more bang for their buck. They're funded at slightly lower levels. You've been pushing for their expansion, more teachers, one-on-one or more student-oriented teaching. How's that coming?
Yeah. Well, I passed the charter bill last session. It passed 30-1 out of the Senate and never came up for vote in the House. I passed it again this session, and it has not come up for vote in the House. Charter schools we have 56,000 people waiting on wait lists for charter schools. We've reached our cap, a little over 200. And there are some charters, about 10%, that are low performing, that are not, and they need to be closed down. So one of the things my bill does is give the Commissioner of Education more power. He's been trying to close one for 9 years. We need to close down the bad ones. But there are so many excellent charter schools, and half the kids in charters are high-risk students, dropout students. They're not the cream of the crop. A lot of people, if you haven't seen the movie Waiting for Superman, if you care about education, see Waiting for Superman. It's a documentary on education.
Where you're right, the at-risk kids, the economically disadvantaged, they can't be expected oftentimes to go into the typical seat in the chair type program.
Right, and so charter schools are an answer. And a lot of people think these kids are handpicked. No, it's a lottery. It's a lottery. Kids, there's 56,000 people.
With a waiting list.
With a waiting list that put their names in a hat and they're drawn out at random. So charter schools, the reason we need to expand them is to help reduce the waiting list, to help these at-risk students. One of the things that we have to understand in Texas is we have to have an educated workforce for the future.
Well, let me ask you, what's the problem in the House, if I may?
The problem in the House is obvious.
Stronger presence over there.
Let me put it this way. With 101 Republicans, it's not the Democrats killing it in the House.
Well said.
Okay.
I'll take that as a good an answer as we're going to get.
Right. I mean, the teachers' unions have influence over the Democrats, but I need Republicans to get behind this, and we need to get it moving. But I want to go back I want to be sure as people watch this, because the people who watch your interviews are very informed. It's because there are a lot of conflicting messages. The Senate budget is $11 billion less than current spending. We're cutting every other area of the budget. I even took the $25 million out of Formula One racing here in Austin, which is made me enemy number one in Austin.
In Austin.
But we shouldn't be spending $25 million for a Formula One racetrack.
That could be a good thing to be the enemy in Austin.
That's 500 teachers. But we are focusing on classrooms and teachers. So we're cutting education by $4 billion, focusing on the classroom, and I hope the House will come to our number. There was one very positive thing, in closing, I can share with you. The veterans came to us with their number one priority. Veterans today who are 100% disabled are exempted from property taxes. But sadly, when they pass, their spouse, whether it's male or female, those taxes come back.
And we've got a lot of veterans in Texas.
We have a lot of veterans in
Probably the highest population
and
here.
Severely disabled veterans. So I passed a bill this week that says, and the voters will have, it'll be a constitutional amendment as well, the voters will have a chance to vote on it. I'm sure they'll support our veterans.
Okay.
That if you're 100% disabled and exempted from property taxes, that when they pass, if they have a surviving spouse, the spouse is entitled to continue with that tax benefit. Because look, the spouse who's been the caretaker of our disabled veterans should not be faced, in their later years to suddenly be taxed on a home. They could be taxed right out of their home. So I'm happy that passed, and I believe the House will pass that.
In a slightly related manner,
Yes.
a lot of, because we've been covering this issue, and a lot of our viewers will be familiar with this, the White House recently decided where retiring space shuttles are going to be located.
Oh, yes.
And Houston did not make the list. How's that going over down in Houston?
It's not going over very well down in Houston, and we have to fight to get our shuttle back. We're the space capital.